A resignation from Parliament, charges and counter-charges filed, denials and disappointment. And still nothing right now can return 18 men to South Africa who were unknowingly deployed to the front lines of the Russia-Ukraine war. We get the very latest from the man who broke the Umkhonto we Sizwe and Russian military saga with Iavan Pijoos next.
So with that phone call, it was actually my colleague Sakiseni. We were just trying to check up on the guys. How are you guys doing? That phone call was interrupted and the guy said, "Did you hear that?" And Saki was like, "Yes, I did." "What was that?" "Sounded like a bomb." And then he said, "Yeah, it was an explosion. It must have been a drone." So these are the type of things that these men go through. Some of them say that obviously they're not used to this.
Later in our training topic, the Boks have been thrown into a fairly easy pool for the 2027 Rugby World Cup. And finally, Dr. Christiaan Barnard made human heart transplant history on this very day in 1967, heard at the end of the show.
New episodes of The Lead air Monday through Thursday at 7 p.m.
My name's Graeme, this is The Lead, and this is the South African story. This episode of The Lead is brought to you by 10X Investments. 10X, your future. Ivan, how's it? Welcome back to The Lead, my brother. How you doing? Yeah, in the Randburg studio, there's a bit no aircon at the moment. There's a bit of a power outage, but we continue.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Graeme. I would say it's good to be back. Good to speak about important news topics that has been dominating our charts over the past few weeks.
100%. And your story, and exclusive at that, Conned into Combat, which is now the series running on News 24, has been absolutely stellar. We were just chatting off mic. I think you're going to win awards for this. I can see it in the stars. So congratulations so far on doing an absolutely fantastic job, and I really mean that. We didn't really see it coming last week when we saw the headlines that suddenly Jacob Zuma's daughter, Duduzile Zuma Sambudla, would announce her resignation from the Umkhonto we Sizwe party. She didn't really say much at all at the press conference, and nor did her father, hey?
We thought that they were just going to address the issues that we've been reporting on. So during the briefing, they announced that Zuma Zambudla would resign as an MP, but she would still remain as a member of the MK party. During this briefing, they also mounted a strong defense for Zuma Zambudla after they announced the resignation, and then they denied any involvement into the scandal. And they made it clear, according to them, that this resignation has nothing to do with an admission of guilt or the organization finding her guilty. So, and that was also very shocking for the families and the men that we've spoken to, because some of them were watching the briefing and were asking us, is this really happening? How are they denying all of this?
What do we know about, and we understand she's effectively referred to as Auntie Dudu by some of these men and people within the MKP. What do we know about her involvement in flying these 18 men to Russia for the bodyguard training? Apparently she went with them and she was joined by Madiba's grandson Andile, is that right?
After the first story broke, we received a series of WhatsApp messages between Duduzile, a woman called Sipokasi Kuma Zuma, and a man named Blessing Koza. They were all part of that WhatsApp group. So before the men left for Russia in July, they were added to a group named Joburg Russia Team. And that's before they left in July. And after they arrived in Russia, the group was changed to MK Russia Mission. And Zuma Zambudla was the administrator of both those groups. So that was quite interesting. She was the only admin of that group, and she did most of the communication, where she, in those series of WhatsApp messages, where she would promise the guys that she would join them. There were chats where she said that I will also sleep in the bushes with you guys. We will be armed with guns and grenades. There's also WhatsApp messages from her where she sent a picture of her wearing a black T-shirt that says grenade on it. So the men saw someone they knew and someone they trusted in her, and then they believed that she would join them in the military training that they would receive for their. They believed that she would join them in the training that they would undergo in Russia. We also spoke to a Botswana mom. Her son is a 19-year-old boy who was also lured into the recruitment process, and the main person behind this, she said, was Duduzile, who promised her that, you're going to Russia to receive education and some form of training. And they had the mother said they had quite a close bond, because Dudu would also call him on his birthdays, and he referred to her as Auntie Dudu. So, there was that form of trust between them.
The last time we spoke, Ivan, we knew that Zuma had sent that letter to the Russian defense minister. What do we know that's come from that? There's been all sorts of headlines that Zuma was apparently blue-ticked by the Russian government. What do we know about what came out of that?
When we spoke to our sources, they said that there was this letter, the one that we've been reporting on, which Zuma wrote to the defense minister in Russia. And after that failed, Zuma went to Russia. And we believe it was around September that he went to Russia. We're just trying to firm up the correct dates. When he went there and tried to have a meeting to get the guys back, but that all failed.
Within the MKP at the moment, we can see Zuma Zambudla is laying charges, shifting the blame, it seems, elsewhere on a recruiter. But at the same time, there's been a human trafficking charge or a complaint that's been brought against her by her half-sister. So it's quite murky within the party at the moment. It's difficult, right? And then she's also under an inquiry by the police, right?
So Graeme, what happened was Dudu Zile's half-sister, Nkosazana, opened a case at Sandton police station. That was about 2 weeks ago. And she, in a statement, she said she wants her sister to be investigated for human trafficking, because she believed that her sister had a direct involvement in this matter, in the recruitment and sending the men to Russia. Dudu Zile then filed a counter charge, blaming, or rather shifting the blame onto one of the recruiters. His name is Blessing Koza, and this name has popped up quite a lot in our reporting, because all the men and their families have blamed Blessing Koza as being Dudu Zile's right hand in recruiting them and sending them to Russia. And they also said that Blessing Koza was also the guy that they communicated to in Russia. He was the direct communication with the guys as well as to the Zile.
Right. The affected families, they don't buy the official stance of the MK party at that press conference, that the party's completely innocent, that it's, didn't send these boys under any different auspices to the front lines of this Russia versus Ukraine war in the Donbas region, right? The families don't buy that whatsoever.
Absolutely, Graeme. When we spoke to the families on Friday afternoon, the first words that they said were shocking. It's absolutely shocking that one would distance yourself from the scandal where there's letterheads, there's invoices, there's bank statements, there's also communication in WhatsApp groups with these men, and these are all the things that the family said that the MKP can't distance themselves from this, because they had a direct involvement in this.
And the men on the front, you've excellently revealed how they've been sort of sending desperate messages to their families going, please help, please intervene. We're now being sort of sent into locations that they have no idea where they're being sent to. And obviously, it's in a cold region. So now their bodies have to adjust. They're sleeping in bushes. it's a difficult, tense situation.
Yeah, Graeme, and these are also the things that the family some of the families have raised with us. Majority of, basically all of these men are from KZN. So the family said that they are not quite used to those cold winter conditions like Russia. And then they were all worried about, obviously, their safety. And now with the winter, would their bodies adjust to that? And one relative said that these men have already complained that they are injured or they're not feeling well, they're getting sick, they, suffering from flu, but they don't have a choice. They just have to follow orders and instructions from the Russian commanders. There was also one night, I think it was sometime last week, when we spoke to one of the men that side, and that's when we discovered the series of voice messages in which he said that they are now being loaded onto a truck. There's about 50 of them inside of this truck, and they don't know the other guys, and they were just told that they're going somewhere. And one said he was given a gun and said, "You are going to war." They told the families like it felt like we are going to war, because the guy said that there's a lot of clothes inside of this truck, and the location of where they were taken to was unclear.
Your one phone call with one of the men was in fact interrupted by a loud explosion, is that right?
So with that phone call, it was actually my colleague Sakiseni. He spoke. We were just trying to check up on the guys. How are you guys doing? And then that phone call was interrupted, and the guy said, "Did you hear that?" And Saki was like, "Yes, I did." "What was that?" It sounded like a bomb. And then he said, "Yeah, it was an explosion. It must have been a drone." So these are the type of things that these men go through. Some of them say that obviously they're not used to this, and that's why they send these messages and voice notes to their families asking for help to get home. I think one of those voice notes that stood out for me, and the videos that we've seen, was a guy who said, he ended his video saying that I really just want to go home to my wife and kids. So these are men who also have families, who also have children, and all they want is, for help. That's what they've told us.
It's not what they signed up for, right? And then there's this case of SAFM's Nonkululeko Mantula, a broadcaster there, actually appearing in court, flanked by some 4 others on Monday for allegedly recruiting South Africans to join in the Russian military. These two matters, though, Iavan, just to allay any sort of questions at this point, they're not connected, right?
Yeah, when we spoke to the Hawks this week, they said that it's 2 separate matters. They are not connected. There's no link to the 2 cases. But what we do know is that the SFM broadcaster, Mantula, she has been charged under the Regulation of Foreign Military Assistance Act. And Zuma Zambutla has not been charged under this act yet. That's what we know for now.
Right. Because all of this is, plain and simple, it's illegal, right?
So yeah, Graeme, recruiting South African citizens to fight in foreign wars is illegal. The regulation of this act prohibits mercenary activities and regulates South Africans providing military assistance to foreign countries. So we also spoke to Guy Lamp, a crime expert, and he said both Mantula and Zuma Zamputla present as persons engaged in recruitment for financial gain. So that was quite interesting when he said that, and he said which is deemed an offence within that act. Guy Lamp also said that if the Hawks found evidence that Zuma Zamputla did engage in recruitment, she and Mantula could face prosecution, which could involve prison time or fine.
These guys have signed contracts written in Russian that has signed them up for a year on the front. So it's not as if they're going to be brought home anytime soon unless international relations gets involved a lot more closely. Do I have that correctly?
Yeah, so that's also how we understood it. When they signed these contracts, the men said it was all written in Russian and they didn't understand, and they apparently sent it to their families, and by the time there was some sort of understanding what they were signing, it was too late. So their phones were taken away after they signed, and then they realized that these contracts actually now compel them to fight in Russia's war against Ukraine.
Do you think that ties President Cyril Ramaphosa's hands?
So, Graeme, we've been trying to get comment from the presidency after we broke the story on 11 November. The first response we received from Vincent was that they are not commenting at that stage. It's under investigation. And then on Saturday, they actually they broke that silence and said that the presidency said that the situation is complex and sensitive, and it's difficult because these men are in an active combat zone, which limited their avenues for assistance. And Vincent also said that they are handling this matter with the required discretion and urgency.
Right. Can't wait to see what comes next from the saga. Next expose coming out Thursday, is that right?
Yeah, hopefully. Hopefully, Graeme, if all goes well, before the end of the week.
Yeah, Iavan Pijoos has been absolutely on top of the story from day one, sending the rest of the media world scurrying to try and play catch up. Iavan, thanks so much for your time on the lead, bro. I really appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Graeme.
At 10X Investments, we don't only help you invest for retirement, we help you craft a legacy. With thoughtful planning and meticulous execution, you can create the retirement future you've always wanted. Invest with us today. 10X your future. 10X is a licensed FSP.
Trending topic.
Hey, look at that. The pools have been drawn for the Rugby World Cup 2027, and South Africa, just on the first glimpse of it, only really has Italy, Georgia and Romania to worry about in Pool B. Khanyiso Tshwaku joins me in our Randburg studios now. Khanyiso, your initial view? Easy pool?
Firstly, good afternoon, Graeme. I hope you enjoyed the Nanaga pies as per the recommendation. I'm happy that you enjoyed them.
They were excellent.
Yeah.
I had two.
Now, you see, now we're talking. Now to the draw, to answer your question. Look, Italy, Boks have played them 3 times this year. They tried an assortment of things that actually worked out. I mean, they beat them just recently now in Turin with 14 and 13 men on the field. So Rassi would have taken all the homework he needs from them. You'd find that now he'll be watching the Six Nations even more intently. Actually, the URC in particular, because Italy picked the squads from 2 teams, that being Benetton and Zebre. So he'll be paying a firm attention. I mean, starting this coming weekend, because when you look at it from a EPCR perspective, Challenge Cup, the Lions are actually hosting Benetton at Ellis Park this weekend. So knowing Rassi Rasmus, he may take leave in small gaps, but his research starts now. I think the interesting part now will lie in how does it gauge Romania. Will he do what he did with Japan and try getting a test match outside of the international window to gauge where they lie? Maybe he'll try it like in the Barbarians window like he did this year, or maybe he tries it at the end of the year. We'll see about that. Look, he knows what he'll get in Georgia. They were here this year, gave the Boks a very, very physical test. They probably necessitated the Boks going back for a conditioning camp that caught them against Australia, but in the long run of the season, we're comfortably the best team in the second half.
Pool A, yeah, it's a big one. New Zealand, Australia, Chile, and then Hong Kong, China. But now tell us, how it would also play off.
Yes.
Say, for example, the hypothetical, unless something extreme happens, the Springboks are going to win the top of that particular pool. And then who do they face if say, for example, New Zealand and Australia go through on their pool?
All right, so this is how it'll work. The Boks will play in topping the group. They will play the 3rd place team in pools D, E, F. And then whoever tops Pool A will play the team that finishes third in Pool C, E, F. So what will that mean? The winners of that game will then meet in the quarterfinal. So when you look at what the status looks like now, the winner of the Australia-New Zealand game will probably play South Africa in the quarterfinal. Whichever way, there's no way out. And the winner of that quarterfinal will play one of France-England in the semi-final. So this is an easy route out, but a hard route in. So this is like just walking out of home, just be ambling downhill. But you can see the incline right there at the top. You're like, we'll get there. Yeah. Then, boom, you hit the incline. And whether you complete the incline or not is entirely up to how you prepared. So, I listened to a video clip that actually explained that the best part of the World Cup pool is pools E and F, because you'll get probably weak teams until you get to the semi-finals. However, if you are from pool D upwards, you've got a fair bit of booby traps, which is probably where you want to be. To win a World Cup, you actually want to be on the harder side of the booby traps, because if you look at how England meandered through the World Cup, and then there was this false hope raised about them all of a sudden being World Cup contenders, and South Africa and Andre Pollard burst that bubble for them in that wonderful game in Paris. So the long and the short of it is that the Boks are chasing a three-peat, and as a genuine sports person, a genuine sports fan, the World Cups that are most savoured are the ones that are won the hardest.
Yeah, let's end off quickly now, just looking at Pool C, D, E, and F. Yeah. And then do you just give me your quick takes on what you think is going to be the upsetter or the clear winner here? So Pool C is Argentina, Fiji, Spain, Canada. Go.
I'd probably say Argentina, Fiji will come out of that group. I think Canada-Fiji game will be very interesting. Pool D
is Ireland, Scotland, Uruguay, and Portugal.
Ireland, Scotland, and I suspect that Portugal and Uruguay will try fight for the third place spot.
And then Pool E is France, Japan, USA, Samoa.
Oh, France will go through, but I think that's the group of the World Cup, because all those teams are relatively equally matched. This is a World Cup that is growing, that aims to grow the game. Probably that particular pool will give us the most exciting, because all those teams are equally matched.
And then lastly, Pool F. I think England's been playing fairly good rugby in the last year or so. England, Wales, Tonga, and Zimbabwe. Hey, Zimbabwe.
Tonga v Wales. Tonga v Wales has the potential to be the game of the tournament, because whoever you finish, teams want to finish second in that group. I can't see them beating England, but that game will have everything.
What do we know about Zimbabwe?
Look, there are a lot of South Africans who are working with Zimbabwean rugby at the moment. I think Sina Esterhazen was working at Bishops, if I'm not mistaken, has been working with them. There are several players. Vernon Matongo, who is currently breaking people's backs for the Stormers as a lucid prop. He's also a Zimbabwean player. So look, there's a fair number of Zimbabwean players who are actually campaigning in South African rugby. Notenda Masavere, who was playing for the Sharks, actually was criminally underplayed by the departing John Plumtree. So look, they've got a fair few number of players to actually show off, but doing it in winning the continental tournament as compared to winning the World Cup or competing in the World Cup are two different things.
Yeah, 100%. So do we write them off?
No, they will have a performance that will give a team a sleepless night.
Okay, but they're sort of replacing Namibia.
Yes, unfortunately.
Khanyiso Tshwaku, I really do appreciate it. He's an absolutely excellent rugby writer, and he's a purveyor of good pies.
Yes. Shamrock, Boss's pies, Nanacha pies. Yeah, call me.
Yeah,
if you want,
no Western Cape pies whatsoever.
No.
Danko.
Cheers.
Looking for a smarter weekend scroll? The Weekender is your ultimate guide to bold stories, sharp opinion, and a fresh lens on life in Mzansi. From exclusive interviews and powerful essays to wine picks, playlists, and pop culture gems, it's your perfect weekend read all in one place, landing every Saturday on News 24. And finally,
ending off now with On This Day in South African History. That's the 3rd of December 1967. Well, on this very day, South African surgeon Dr. Christiaan Barnard performed the very first successful human-to-human heart transplant at Grooteskier Hospital on Cape Town's foreshore. Now, the breakthrough operation, carried out in the Charles Saint Theatre, marked a new era in global medical science. Barnard, already a pioneer in open heart surgery, led a team of about 30 specialists, including his brother, Dr. Marius Barnard. By then, the Grooteskier cardiac unit had spent a decade refining the techniques that made the 9-hour procedure possible. The recipient was Louis Washkansky, a 53-year-old grocer suffering from terminal heart failure. The donor was Denise Darval, a young woman declared brain dead after being struck by a car on the 2nd of December. Now, with her father's consent, her heart and kidneys were then donated. The operation began shortly after midnight and concluded just before dawn, when the transplanted heart was successfully shocked into action inside Washkansky's chest. He regained consciousness, spoke with staff, and even walked with assistants. But his weakened immune system could not withstand pneumonia, and sadly he died just 18 days later. The achievement nonetheless transformed cardiac medicine and placed South Africa at the center of global scientific attention. Today, the Heart of Cape Town Museum in Grooteskier preserves the original operating theatres and commemorates the team whose hard work changed the course of medical history. Drop us your mails, thelead@24.com. Drop us your WhatsApps, 072-562-3179. And hit like, follow, and subscribe to be notified of all of our editions dropping Monday to Thursday at 7 p.m. My name's Graeme Robenheimer. So long as there's trusted news first, we'll always have The Lead. This episode of The Lead was brought to you by 10X Investments. 10X, your future.